interdependent and interrelated. In the Integrated Fiscal Act of 1997, it is set out what process should be followed for the division of national revenue between the three spheres of government. And the reason I am precursing my response with this is that we should understand that the resources go with the mandate. It is also established that the budget forums in which the local government issues are discussed as part of the national budget process are also put in place. The district model, the DDM, is an operational model for improved cooperation governance that promotes the need. So whereas the Constitution is very clear about the mandate, and the mandate also determines resources allocated to where that mandate is located, the intergovernment, the DDM approach is one that we have adopted as government because it assists us to make sure that we are able to have a more cooperative approach in relation to some of the things that we do. It is a very useful tool. We have checked on it in various provinces, namely in the Eastern Cape and in Limpopo. It works as a cooperative tool. However, the budgets that are allocated in line with what the constitutional requirements put in place. It's important that the Department of Water and Sanitation provincial offices shared budgets and programs are spatially mapped in the 52 district spaces, and their provincial department and the Provincial Department of Local Government and Traditional Affairs and counterparts ensure a joint planning approach. So what we would do if we were to succeed in this is to say, in the district modeling approach, it's going to go beyond the approach and have a system that pools together the resources so that those resources can go much further. However, in terms of the Constitution, it is very clear that the resources are channeled in line with what the Constitution says. So this district model approach is one that we have started. It works, but it has not reached the level of amendments of any of those underlying principles that we have both in our Constitution and in our laws. The major focus of the district model is to integrate service delivery through both planning and implementation, and to provide a platform to address service delivery shortfalls. And in this case, it is very useful because we are able to have a joint approach in our operations. We are able to detect where there are shortfalls, and through this, the Department of Water and Sanitation does participate in the district model way of ensuring that there is efficiency and that we are able to plan together. But we need a single planning and implementation strategy that will enhance the focus of supply and reliable service provision. So what we're saying is that while it is good for cooperation, for it to be more effective and for it to be able to do what the honorable member is suggesting it might do, we need to amend either our legislation or whatever other provision is given so that the planning and the integration are all in the funding stream, because the funding stream is what determines where the money must go. In order to realize the goals of the DDM, the provincial offices of Department of Water and Sanitation, the district municipalities must be capacitated with engineers to assist water services authorities. They must, and to expedite their water service delivery programs. The Department of Water Services would align with the infrastructure grant framework, which could be provided to the district model as envisaged by COPTA. So what we're saying is that if we had the opportunity, we do have grants that are provided for municipalities and for bulk infrastructure. If we could, we would channel them all into one planning unit, which would be the district model. And if that was allowed, it would save quite a great deal of the problems that we have.
Thank you. Thank you, Minister.
But right now, water authorities don't have their legal responsibility, and they are constitutionally their responsibility. So too do the municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Ntate Mashego. Ntate Mashego. Honorable Mashego. Butrovich. Any whip from...
I can take the question.
Any whip? Yeah, any whip? Aya ngwezi. Go jame.
Yo, Matot.
Umashego khona ku platform. Mashego siyakubona ku platform. Khuluma.
Ayikhulumi le nto abangaze
Re a go kwa papa tswela pele. Ra go kwa mkhala. Mashego re a go kwa. Ino bolela re tlo go.
Chairperson of the House, can we take the question on his behalf?
Mashego, oh, the mic is open and he just spoke. I don't understand what is the problem. Re a go tšeela ntate Mashego Oscar Loisha. Continue, Honorable Mkhatshwa.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The COVID-19 pandemic has resulted in many planned projects to be shifted due to the reality that government needed to shift all its efforts towards interventions aimed at combating the pandemic. How has the pandemic affected the implementation of the district development model? And what are some of the tenets of the district development model that the Minister has seen to be helpful in implementing the mandate of her, especially during this time when they had to respond to the pandemic? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Honorable Chair, when the pandemic struck, we as the Department of Water and Sanitation took to Cabinet our approach to dealing with this matter. We requested them to allow us to establish a command council. That command council was established at Rand Water, and it interacted with all the municipalities that have the responsibility to provide water and all the water authorities throughout the country. So we had a central point as opposed to a district approach. We had a central point from which we were able to disperse the tanks and the tankers for water and monitor their delivery from one central point. And it worked for us, and that is what we used. In fact, we think it was a resounding success. I don't know how it would work from a district model perspective because we have not tried it.
Thank you, Minister. The Honorable Basson.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon.
Water infrastructure in most provinces is a fundamental issue in all elements of the water sector, as the infrastructure is at risk of failure. Lack of water infrastructure or the poor management of water resources results in the economic water scarcity. Over a third of South Africa's water supply is being lost due to aging and leaking infrastructure before it can be used. Minister, how do you intend addressing this critical issue? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Basson. Honorable Basson, we have been greatly emboldened by the initiative that has been taken by the President in creating an infrastructure project under himself and overseen by the Minister of Public Works, where we are hoping to crowd in investment to allow us to improve our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is not only aging, it has been skewed in relation to the racial divide of our country. We have not been able to put in the necessary infrastructure to get to the furthest corners of the country, and our people in the rural areas still suffer incredibly from this problem. While that infrastructure which has been in place is aging, and as you say, and we're losing a great deal of water through that, we had attempted to find a solution to this, and we are looking into it. Technology will assist us to solve this problem. We have discovered technology that is able to detect a leak and actually repair the leak without having to dig up. But right now, our infrastructure is aging. We are looking into that. However, we do have a grant, as you know, which is called Regional Bulk Infrastructure Grant, and it's a conditional grant which is meant to provide bulk water and sanitation services to areas where there is a shortage of the service. And this grant is allocated in line with the Division of Revenue Act. The purpose of the grant is to develop new infrastructure as well as to refurbish that infrastructure that is decaying, sometimes to upgrade it and replace aging bulk water and sanitation infrastructure of regional significance. The grant funds and large regional bulk infrastructure serving numerous communities over large areas is what we depend on to deal with the problem that you're talking about. RPIC is managed as per the Division of Revenue, as I indicated, and it is worked through Schedule 2 and Schedule 5, which are direct transfers. They don't come through us, they are direct transfers to those water authorities that might need that. So in terms of our planning, in terms of our law, there is a grant that is given to our water authorities to ensure that their infrastructure is looked after and upgraded to the extent that it is possible. But we do live with an inheritance that is very skewed and one that will take a long time for us to allocate in line with the needs of our people.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The Honorable Mamhlala.
Thanks, Chairperson, and good afternoon. Minister, the very same problems that hinder intergovernmental relations between the spheres of government, the same problems which led the Auditor General to conclude that there were only 18 functional municipalities out of 257 in this country.
Yes.
The same problems that has made millions of people not to have access to clean water will be the same problem faced by the district development model. These are unfilled vacancies, flouting of legislated governance frameworks, corruption, and poor oversight. Minister, how are you planning to overcome these challenges to ensure that people in every corner of this country have access to clean quality water services? Thank you.
Thank you, Ma. The Honorable the Minister.
The Honorable Member is using two different questions to conflate into one. One is to state the current situation that we find ourselves in our municipalities. Our municipalities are struggling. They're struggling for various reasons, and the Auditor General would have indicated what those are to the Portfolio Committee. The reason why the district model approach was adopted by COCTA and has been embraced by the rest of Cabinet is because it helps us pool our resources together within those municipalities that are struggling and give the necessary support to the struggling municipalities. It is an approach that has worked, and we talk from experience. It has worked because you have a pulling together of resources and therefore a pulling together of all the energies and whatever it is that is lacking in each individual municipalities. The municipalities, as they are structured now, do not have the capacity sometimes that is given to them by the Constitution. Therefore, we use this model because it's an operational tool. It helps us. Even in the vernacular, you say, if you hold together, you go a longer way. So that is what we're doing. Siyabambisana izandla between our various municipalities, the bigger municipalities and the more rural municipalities can benefit and do benefit from the district model. So for us, it has worked. And it's not my terrain because it is in Cocta, but in those areas where we have intervened and we've had problems, we have found that going through the district model has assisted us because we have a partnership with a bigger municipality, a municipality that has all the necessary capacity, the necessary engineers, and the necessary tools of trade to be able to help us. So I would not throw the district model out of the window. But I agree with you, our municipalities are struggling. It is something that all of us need to put our heads together about and find out how we can support our municipalities struggling. Whether those municipalities fall in the rural areas or whether they still have challenges that we must confront and solve without having to throw away that which is working. That which is working is cooperation. I have not known of cooperation that has had negative effects in this particular area. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mhlonishwa Ngwezi.
Siyathokoza sihlalo wendlu. Sibingelela kungqongqoshe namalungu onke alendlu. Mhlonishwa Xhamela.
Yebo baba.
Iqembu lenkatha eminyakeni emine edlule. Lana eluleka ngokuthi lento yokuhlela ngokwahlukana kodwa nonke nibe provide service eyodwa. Kuzonikeza inkinga ngokuhamba kwesikhathi abantu bakithi niyohluleka ukubanikeza amanzi ahlanzekile. Isibonelo esikhulu salokho ukuthi esifundeni sasemkhanyakude umnyango wezamanzi lapha eSouth Africa usukwazile ukuqedela udaba lwebulk infrastructure. Kodwa ngenxa ukuthi ngesikhathi umnyango uhlela ngokwahlukana nomkhandlu umkhanyakude okuwumsebenzi wawo ukuthi usabalalisa amanzi kubantu basemkhanyakude. Then abantu bakithi abakwazi ukuthola amanzi njengamanje. Umbuzo wami ke uthi ke ngakube ngokusebenzisa lolu hlelo ikuphi esenikwenzile ukuzama ukuthi nixazulule lenkinga ebhekene nabantu basemkhanyakude nakwezinye indawo nje ezweni la khona kunenkinga efanayo uthola ukuthi kune infrastructure esihleze efakwe idepartment kodwa imkhandlu kuleyo ndawo ayikwazi ukusabalalisa amanzi ukuze abantu bakithi bakwazi ukuzuza amanzi ahlanzekileyo. Ngiyathokoza.
Thokoze Mhlonishwa. Mhlonishwa Ngqongqoshe.
Mhlonishwa benke ngazinika isikhathi sokuthi ngihambe ngiye eKwaZulu Natal la ngifike ngavula khona ischeme se-bulk infrastructure nescheme samanzi ngahlela ukuthi eziphi indawo eKwaZulu Natal including imkhanyakude la si-ring fence khona imali yokuthi siyofaka khona zonke le mfanelo zaleyo particular area. Imkhanyakude akusikoqala ubuza ngayo. It is within our view and it is well within our sights. Njengoba besengise nje isifiso sami ukuthi ngiyofikelela kini le emkhanyakude ngoba awubingeleli nokubingelela uvela ungene nje emkhanyakude. It senzeke arrangement ukuthi ngiye emkhanyakude ngenze sure ukuthi ibulk infrastructure efakiwe lapha iyasebenza yini. Uma ngaba ayisebenzi kwenziwa yini ukuthi ingasebenzi? Ngoba lapha ngakini nama water boards amabili. Uma ngabe umasipala uyahluleka unelungelo lokuthi acele kuma water board ukuthi asizwe. Angikhumbuli ukuthi bake umkhanyakude ke wacela ku water board akazange anikwe isupport lebekufanele ayinikwe. So ngizawuthi kuwe ke Mhlonishwa ngiyayizwa lento oyishoyo ngi-invite sizobonisana silungise lento nama water boards lapha azakwazi ukukuncedisa. Kodwa iARBIC le esinikezelayo inikezelwa ukuthi kube khona ibulk infrastructure kuyo yonke indawo la kunama water authorities khona.
Thank you, Minister. Before I proceed to the next question, I just want to plead with the members of the executive to please revisit Rule 142 number 3 and the members asking questions to revisit 142 number 5. In that way, we will be able to have more questions asked, because I don't want to stop you. And I really don't like stopping members, especially of the executive, when they are trying to assist us in this question session. So let's respect the times according to the rules so that we have more questions answered. That is my plea to all of us. The next question is question number 644, asked by the Honorable Khwarube to the Minister of Health. The Minister is with us here in the chamber. The Honorable, the Minister.
What is the next question?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable House Chairperson.
If you can just take the mic closer to you, Baba. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Am I audible, or you want me to take my mask off?
You can, because there's nobody close to you. When you speak, you can. Thank you very much, Minister.
Thank you very much. The question 644 from Honorable Khwarube refers to the large spending reductions in provincial equitable share formula, and wants to know what are the programs that have been prioritized and which ones are negatively affected. The response is as follows. Department aims to increase life expectancy and progressively achieve universal health coverage through increasing coverage and quality care in South Africa. In essence, it would require the department to improve health outcomes, strengthen health systems while reforming the health systems guided by national health policy. There are two impacts derived from the MTSF 2019-2024, defining the department's agenda. The first one is increasing life expectancy to 6.66, increase in 2 years by 2024. This impact is supported by 5 outcomes which are responding to the quadruple burden of disease. The second is progressively achieving universal health coverage and protecting citizens from catastrophic health expenditure. It's supported by 13 outcomes that largely respond to health care system strengthening efforts of the sector. These impacts and outcomes are published in the department's strategic plan 2021 to 24-25. We'll provide a list under Annexure A. With the reductions that have happened, still the budget of the provincial departments have increased only slightly by approximately 8 billion, which represents about 4% of the budget in real terms across the 5 years. There are significant reductions in funding for the public health sector projected by National Treasury in the coming MTF due to the weak economic growth in the country. These steep budget cuts are projected for both conditional grants and provincial equitable share allocations, and therefore likely to impact on all health programs in one way or another, because it would make it difficult for the department to find all critical vacant posts and key supplies given the constraints. This context would necessitate a review of the health sector targets in the MTSF strategic plans and annual performance plans of provincial and national departments of health, which are tabled in Parliament and legislature in provinces respectively. Thank you.
Mhlonishwa Khwarube.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, your government has made the spectacularly shocking decision to cut the health budget by 6.6%, which equates to over 680 million rand. This is done during the world's most devastating global health crisis, COVID-19. To add insult to injury, Minister Mboweni has indicated that over 10 billion rand will be allocated to saving an ailing state-owned airline, South African Airways. In effect, Minister, this decision is made while we are facing this pandemic, and in effect, this decision is made essentially to neglect some of the key things that we need to fund in our healthcare system. So a decision has been made to bail out SAA at the expense of filling critical vacancies, like you said, building healthcare infrastructure in many parts of the country, ensuring that provinces like the Eastern Cape are not failing people who are dying from this pandemic due to staff shortages and inadequate life-saving interventions, which can be easily rolled out with this money that is being allocated to SAA. How can your government justify cutting frontline services at a time like this in order to bail out an entity which has not been viable for decades, while healthcare workers are killing themselves to mount a decent response to this pandemic? What could possibly be the ethical justification for South African government's skewed priorities in this regard?
Thank you. The Honorable the Minister.
No, the question that's being asked is a question that's slightly outside the Department of Health. So I won't go into dealing with the issues of South African Airways. I will just deal with the fact that when the situation was difficult, during the pandemic, when it started, we actually made submissions to the national government, and the Treasury was able to allocate additional resources to help the department to deal with the crisis as it unfolded. That helped us to be able to put up all the field hospitals, buy additional ventilators, prepare for more beds to be available, and employ more staff. And this was done with all of these current constraints that are in place. I think what does face government every now and again is a challenge of competing priorities, where it becomes necessary to try and rebalance and reprioritize. In this case, we have been through the difficult time where a number of departments had funds mobilized from them to actually support the Department of Health. So I was quite comfortable with the fact that over that period, we were able to get support in dealing with the COVID-19 situation. Yes, there are chronic problems of underfunding that are historical, that take us back to many years about infrastructure, about human resources, and so on. We will continue to make our representations to the in the Treasury and national government so that we can deal with this. It's particularly important for us to be able to deal with the issue of improvement of the funding of the health services, because we believe it's important for us to upgrade all the health services in preparation for the national health insurance. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, you don't need to sit at your parliamentary allocated seats and keep on moving. You can move next to the mic, enjoy that seat. We just sit anywhere these days, as long as there is the distance between us. Thank you. The next question will come from Honorable Staden.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. Honourable Minister, the provincial equitable share formula is used to distribute national rice government revenue over 9 provinces. Now, regarding the underspending of conditional grants by provinces, what are you as the Minister going to do to ensure that provinces spend this grant correctly, to curb irregular expenditure in the department in order to have more funds available to allocate to provinces for the upgrading and expansion of the infrastructure of hospitals and clinics? And will you ensure that officials and political heads are held accountable for underspending, misappropriation and corruption, and that adequate consequence management is put in place and carried out? And if not, why not? Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister.
Thank you for offering me a new seat. I just like my old seat.
Okay.
But no, thank you very much. The honourable member is raising the issue of equitable share formula. Indeed, that formula is structured on the basis of the FFC formula, and therefore what we do from the National Department of Health is to take responsibility for the overall performance of each of those departments, even though they have a specific formula that is allocated to them in the particular province. So when we deal with issues of infrastructure, we actually have to take regular reports and look at the progress in their expenditure and get every MEC and head of department to be accountable for the way they are spending and what problems are existing, and see whether at the level of the national department we can actually, on overarching oversight, be able to assist them at that kind of level. So that way we are able to hold everyone accountable, although they still have to be accountable in their own provinces. So the issues of misappropriation, issues of irregularities and corruption, we believe that those everyone has to take responsibility for, because we have got the Auditor General that will be able to point those out. We have to sit together and discuss across all provinces to say, look at the audit outcomes and find out why this is the situation. But where it becomes necessary for the department at national level to participate in supporting the Auditor General, we are ready to do so. So we will continue to insist on good governance, appropriate expenditure, and elimination of irregularities when it comes to the work we do. We have an overarching structure which we call National Health Council that is supposed to take responsibility for the health outcomes in the whole country, and therefore it also has to take into account the performance on those particular departments, even though some of the actions have to be allocated to the particular department to act, but we have also a role to play to ensure that we promote good governance. Thank you.
Thank you. Utata usokacha. Uzobuza umbuzo olandelayo.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, it is known that most of the government's energies and resources have been focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. This, coupled with the weak economic growth in South Africa, has affected the department's planned targets over the medium term, as these plans were drafted before the pandemic. Given your response, Honorable Minister, how has the department ensured it mitigate the negative effects of these budget cuts on the initial planned programs and targets? And secondly, Minister, what have been some of the challenges faced by the department in trying to balance between being a frontline department in response to the pandemic and ensuring critical programs do not get affected as a result of this shift in focus and spending? Thank you.
Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Member. The reality is that, yes, all the energies have been focused on the COVID response, and also we have been concerned that we should not leave some of the other services behind. In particular, we have seen that there was some regression in some of the basic services such as immunization, family planning, and so on. But at the same time, this reduction has actually been properly tabled in the past few weeks, and therefore, in our first meeting, which was held yesterday, we've tabled this reduction to say we now need to readjust a lot of our plans to take into account the new reality. Yes, we need to focus on how to avoid a negative impact on most of the services. We are concerned that we will have the issues of human resources and infrastructure still being affected, but we will be able to table the revised plan to be able to see how we can deal with the new reality that we now face. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honorable Chirwa, the last follow-up question will come from you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, part of the budget cuts will have an impact on Program 3, which has to do with HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, child and maternal health. I'm particularly concerned about HIV and the burden of HIV in KZN as a province. Can the minister that will mean for young black women between the ages of 15 and 25 who are at a higher risk of contracting or getting infected with HIV and AIDS, especially in the province of KZN, when we are making budgetary cuts, the program number 3 as well. This more so because PEP and PrEP has been a big failure of the department to mainstream, which are some of the very vital tools in curbing the spread of HIV and AIDS, especially amongst young black women. Can the minister tell us what the impact of this budget cut in program 3 will be, in particular in KZN and for young black women in regards to new infections? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member. We are in the process of reviewing these programs. One thing that's been most encouraging for us has been the fact that there's been a very good uptake on the message, the prevention message as it relates to the HIV prevention program. In particular, we are concerned about the young women and adolescents who are more exposed with a higher incidence of HIV, and they tend to have a higher level of infection compared to their male peers. So we will then have to ensure that that group is protected and is prioritized as we deal with this matter of prevention, and the point of trying to ensure that whatever reduction in the budget must not have an impact at that level. What has been encouraging is the fact that for most of this year, we had actually targeted that all the districts in the country would have been able to reach 90 target, and therefore we want to activate that. A lot of it has to do with community mobilization, where we've got the messages going through local community structures and participation of non-governmental organizations and civil society formations. So we will continue to activate on that. In particular, there are also some of the programs that are funded by some of the international donors, such as PEPFAR and Global Fund, that will also use to make sure that the impact is mitigated in this particular group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We now move to question 650, asked by the Honorable Aris to the Minister of Social Development. The Honorable, the Minister. Honorable Minister, Social Development, question number 650.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and I thank the member for the question. I would like, Honorable said question 651.
650.
Oh, sorry, 650. Thank you very much for the question. The numbers of applications received and approved per month are indicated in the following way. For the month of May, there were 6.605, 445,000. For the month of June, there were 7.518, 308 million. For the month of July, we saw 8,346,136,000 applications processed. For August, a total of 8,951,206. The total number of applications processed for September is 9,146,107, of which 6,039,004 were approved. A total of 68,837 remain unpaid. For October month, 9,267,231 were processed. 6,137,014 were approved. A total of 160,847 have not yet been paid. I do wish to indicate, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, that the numbers of the unpaid is accumulative, because these are the numbers that come from each and every one of the months that we were supposed to pay. And the question also further asked us in terms of the delay? And the answer is straightforward, is that firstly, clients take long time to provide SASSA with their banking details once they have been approved for payment and bank details are requested by SASSA. Other clients change their bank details.
Continue, Minister. Is the latecomers that are disturbing you? Latecomers,
Thank you, Honorable
mute.
Chair.
Continue.
Other clients change their bank details so regularly, sometimes 3 times in a day, and often more than once in a week. And Honorable Chair, this matter of people changing their bank accounts is one of the things that I think SASSA will have to really investigate, because sometimes it's difficult to find out why people change their accounts so often. And also the changing of the accounts really creates a problem for SASSA. Sometimes clients also provide SASSA with bank details or cell phone numbers for cash and are not registered in their name. This has been one of the biggest problems. I even get direct calls myself, ukhona utata ongihlupha kakhulu, utata uVula, uhlale ndifonela qho ethi, hayi Minister, abanye abantu ba-apply through ifoni yami, ngoku abasayitholi imali, and we have to keep on going back to them to say that they cannot apply using other people's cell numbers, because the problem becomes when we have to account. For a number of clients, it was also found that the banks have closed their accounts due to accounts being inactive or clients not providing the required FICA information to the bank. Lastly, obtaining regular, valid and correct information from other database and sources for the validation of the client's income in a month particular is often challenging. We must recall, Chairperson, that SASSA considers each of its current 9.5 million clients every single month. And the reason why we have to do that, Chairperson, is because according to the criteria of who needs to be paid, it has to be somebody who is unemployed. And in some instances, you find that people are not telling us that they have gone back to work and therefore they are now getting salaries, but we have to use different database to make sure that we pay the right people. Access for SASSA up-to-date and correct database with client information is crucial. This information was required to reduce inclusion or exclusion of error. SASSA was to verify details of the applicants against this information. Thank you, Chair.
We thank you, Minister. Akbar, let us.
Thank you very much, Minister. Minister, poverty and hunger are the most unspeakable experience any human being can encounter. The socio-economic devastation caused resulting from the pandemic worsened an already precarious condition in the country. The sight of people queuing at the post office and often not getting the social relief grant is a very painful sight. What is causing delays in making payments available to the people who need them, to the extent that some are sent back home without getting money for days? And how far are you with making this social relief grant a permanent unemployment grant? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Aris. Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Yes, I fully agree with the member. It actually is not acceptable that many of our people repeatedly go back, particularly to the post office, to try and get the money, and in some instances, the money is not available. And personally, I am very aware of the fact that many of those people who come to get their money from the post office, they sometimes borrow money from others in order for them to be able to pay. I do want to indicate, honorable members and honorable chair, that we are in engagement with the Minister Stella Ndabeni-Abrahams to try and resolve this issue. But further than that, honorable chairperson, we are looking at other means of ensuring that people are paid, including the fact that if you look how we staggered the payments, for instance, between the normal social grants and the 350, because we're trying to reduce the numbers who are going to the post office. I also wish to indicate, Chairperson, that it is also part of our responsibility in terms of education and allowing people to appreciate that sometimes they do not necessarily have to go to the post office to get their money on all at the same time. But we need to find new ways of doing it. And I think that the lessons that have been learned from COVID-19 indicate that a lot of our people are actually beginning to use technology, are beginning to appreciate and understand.
Honorable Minister Creecy, please mute your mic. Continue, Honorable.
Chairperson, lastly, Chairperson, I think the question relates now to the sustainability of the 350, and I want to say to the member, remember that it was supposed to be from May to October, and President Cyril Ramaphosa extended it until next January. But I also want to throw in the fact that we long started thinking about what else can be done, because we have seen the usefulness of the 350. That is why we are in discussion around the basic income grant, because we are trying to look for better solutions and long-term solutions to challenges that are faced by our people who do not have a financial muscle, who have no money whatsoever.
Oh.
Thank you, Chairperson. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry for the disturbances. People just come in and then they don't check. They just log in and start talking. Honorable members, people in the office of the Minister Creecy, please assist her. Switch off that mic. We continue. Akhbaralit Briet. This is date now.
Dankie, agbare huisvoorsitter. Minister, there are many people that were approved and that were paid, and you mentioned the troubles with people who changed their banking details. But we have had a number of people who got paid the first month, either at their banks or at SAPO, but in the second month, they were informed that they had to wait for an SMS before collecting their 350 Rand. It has now been more than 6 months since their last payments, and they are still awaiting for those SMSs to collect their 350 Rands at SAPO. On calling the dedicated line for the SRD grant, they were informed, wait for an SMS. On visiting a SASSA office, the office answered, phone the call center. On visiting a post office, the answer was, phone the call center, wait for an SMS, no payment. How will you, your department and SASSA ensure that those that are rightfully approved to receive, that did not change their banking details, as you have mentioned prior, and that have not yet received their 350 Rand, do not fall through the cracks, as I am afraid these people are currently falling through the cracks. Thank you, agbare huisvoorsitter.
Thank you, Baya. Honorable Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question, and it is a fair question, and I believe that we are working in the best way that we can to make sure that those that have not received their money, they receive their money. We committed ourselves, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, to making sure that those that have not been paid are paid their money. I do wish to also indicate that to date, we have paid 5.9 million people from the 6.1 million people who have been approved. And this makes it up to almost 97 or something percent. However, my talking about 97% does not belittle or make the rest of the people who are supposed to receive the money not to be important. They are very important. And I know, as a matter of fact, that many of these people who have been receiving the 350 have really been using it adequately, using it for right reasons, for helping themselves. I want to assure Honorable Member that those that are seen to have fallen off the crack, it still remains our responsibility to pay them. Whether we are backdating, whatever the case might be, they do deserve to be paid, and I am responsible for doing the oversight on SASSA and the department doing oversight on SASSA in making sure that these people are paid. And we really apologize to the fact that many of them have remained unpaid, but we will do everything we can. As we sit, Honorable Member, is that we have done the exit report that relates to the first announcement that was made by the President, that is from May to October. I've demanded that I get that exit report because the closeout report, they call it, the closeout report will be the one that will enable me and the department to really get to the bottom of who wasn't paid, why were they not paid, even though we are continuing with the 350 until January. We've requested for this closeout report because we thought it would enable us to see where the weaknesses have been, but we need to make sure that SASSA pays those that are remaining. Thank you, Chair.
We thank you. Mhlonishwa Kungube, ithuba ngelakho.
Asibulele mhlale ngaphambili. Ngqongqoshe njengoba uye wafumana uxanduva lokubana unika abantu imali engango 350 ngenyanga ngexesha elifutshane nesamba esikhulu. Sifuna ukwazi ukuthi izintoni oye wasifunda ezingenza ukuthi le nyanga ezintathu ezengezelweyo zisebenzeke ngcono nokuthi zonke ezinye i-social grant ezilandelayo zibe nokulawuleka ngendlela engcono kunakuqala. Enkosi.
Mhlonishwa Ngqongqoshe.
Ndiyabulela Chairperson ngombuzo wakho. Some of the lessons that we learned from here siqala nge-information ukuthi uhulumende abazi abantu bakhe ukuthi bakuphi, basebenza kuphi, basithola ini through the necessary systems. Ingxaki esiye sabanayo ukuthi i-information sharing between the different departments and between the different government departments is really not properly centralized, and we need a centralized repository of government information so that ikwazi ukuthi kukhona into okufuneka sizenze ngokunikezela abantu sikwazi ukuthi leyo information sisheshe siyithole okokuqala. Okwesibili sikwazi ukuthi mangabe kune criteria yabantu okufuneka bathole okuthize, whether ile 350, whether ama food parcels or whether yipi na yipi iservice, i-information ekhona ibe lula ukuyithola and kube lula ukuthi si counter check leyo information. Ngifuna ukusho ukuthi ke in this time year 350 good progress was actually made with the processing and payment of applications for the relief grant, with more than 97% of the payments already having been done. Of course, some of the lessons will also be used to strengthen the processing of normal social grant application. I think you'll be aware, Honorable Member, uba sijonge lanto uba abantu abaningi yonke le 9 million, for instance, azange iye nakwelodwa i-office leSASSA, ba-apply through the different channels esasinazo, email, USSD, WhatsApp, and so forth. Because now ukuthi even nalabo abakude bakwazi ukuthi bafinyelele kwaSASSA, not going to the offices of SASSA. Kusho ukuthi ke this lesson that we have learned ukuthi abantu basekhaya bangakwazi ukuthi ba-apply, kufuneka ukuthi thina ke sithi up our game, up our stake in ensuring ukuthi it's easily accessible ukuthi bakwazi ukuthi bayenze ama-application nanokuthi nje bathole iy'mali zabo. In addition, the ability of citizens to utilize really the electronic means of application has been confirmed. This has been confirmed by the fact that we had more than 9 million people who applied. Enkosi.
Siyabulela make. Mhlonishwa Nkonko.
Siyabulela kakhulu House Chair. Le genge yakho mama is i-host, mayingamute abantu abafuna uthetha, iziyeke ingabamute aba bangxolayo. Naku kwenzeka mama uMinister, eyona nto isiwarisha ngakumbi ewe siyalixhasa ngakumbi elilingela le-350 elizama ukususa indlala nekade eziko kubantu bakuthi kodwa isimbonono esifumana kubantu bakuthi okanye isikhalo sesokuba ewe bathi xa beaplya for le nto bacele ukuthi mabasubmithe ii-bank details kodwa eyona nto bakukhwankqisa into yoba ngoku xa kuthiwa mabayothatha imali ayisafakwa kwii-accounts nakwabo banee-accounts ezi-active nezisebenzayo bangazange bazitshintshe kuphele ngoku kufuneka ukuthi bofola e-post office bayakhala ke ngokuthi e-post office akho nto ze-social distancing and the network ingxaki bathi betyhu befole imini yonke funeka baphinde bagoduke bengaphethanga nto nembandi esikhova funeka bavuke ke ngomso baphinde bokwenza ilinge kwakhona uzayilungisa njani igxebe lemicelimngeni ichaphazela abantu bakuthi
Sithokoze Mhlonishwa uqede 12 seconds ubalabala isikhathi sakho siyencile manje. Mhlonishwa Ngqongqoshe.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Honorable Nkwankwa. Ngiyathi ukuthi bantu labaningi vele bahambe baye emaposini bangayitholi imali. Njengoba sengike ngaphendula ke embutweni wokuqala ngisho ukuthi si department sebenzisana nesasa sifuna kubuka in the long term yokuncedisa lento le ngoba sikhumbule ukuthi njengoba MEC Honorable Chair Gungubele abutile ecaleni ukuthi sitawenda kanjani ukuze sishintshe ukuze ukuthi bantu bakithi bakwadi ukuthola imali yabo kahle sengixolisile ke kakhulu kubo bonke laba lokutholakala ukuthi esikhathini lesiningi bahamba bayohlala lapha eposini sengishilo ke futhi nekuthi mina na Minister Stella Ndabeni Abrahams sizama ngalo konke lokukhona emandleni ukuthi le system lesiyisebenzisako le yaseposini ngoba phela liposi lona sijabuliswa ukuthi ligcwele yonke indzawo liposi so bantu bakithi nje masingalungisa liposi batawukwadi ukuthi bangahambi ema distance lamadze ukuthi bayofuna leyo mali yabo ngakho ke Honorable Nkwankwa ndithi sawenza yonke into ekhona emandleni ethu indaba nje ukuthi kufuneka sisebenzise i-technology sishintshe nalama system esiwasebenzisayo enza ukuthi abantu bahlale isikhathi eside or ixesha elide emaposini ngiyazi ukuthi kubuhlungu ngiyaphinda futhi siyaxolisa kakhulu kodwa ke sicela nisinikeze isikhathi sikwazi ukulungisa.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next question is posed by the Honourable Adwins and is directed at the Honourable Minister of Basic Education. The Honourable Minister.
No, thank you very much, Chair, and also let me thank the opportunity to share information. Chair, in relation to the protocols that we have for exams for COVID-19 is that all centers were subjected to an audit by the district and provincial teams to ensure that there is compliance to the strict security standards of the national examinations. And for 2020, DBE added also safety protocols for COVID-19 health and safety requirements to examination protocols. And the audit was conducted with additional criteria which had to evaluate the safety. And in addition to ongoing monitoring of all examination centers during this period, the health and safety requirements continue to be monitored using the instruments that we have developed with the guidance of the Health Department. On psychosocial support, which is a key requisite for the normal schooling requirements under COVID-19, this also continues to be made available to all the candidates who are sitting for exams now. Teachers at every level have been trained to be able to support learners in this area. But if there are more serious challenges, there are also support teams at a district level who can support learners with psychosocial services. So psychosocial support. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I now invite the Honourable Adwins to ask the first supplementary question. The Honourable Adwins.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you very much, Minister, for your question. For your response, my apology. My follow-up question is based on those learners that have tested positive to COVID-19. or they have symptoms or positive symptoms, what kind of a plan or measures that are in place in your department to assist those learners to perform during these exams? Thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah. No, thank you very much, Member, again. Chair, I can really say with sincere gratitude to the Department of Health, both at national and provincial level. They've been working very close with us to ensure that learners who present a high temperature during exams, there are protocols that we take them to an isolation center, which is supposed to be there at every school, and they're right there, so that we don't turn them back. But those that have already been those who have tested positive, we again work with health and provincial departments that if provinces like Gauteng have a quarantine center, they are writing from there. But if there isn't any quarantine center, provincial departments and the health department, both of education and health, work together to make sure that there are safe places where learners can write. So I can assure that there's no learner was turned back, but also there was no learner was able to write exams, even those that had been tested, even those that had tested positive are continuing to write exams. But if there's any learner by any chance was not able to write, even those learners will be able to write now in May. But in the main, the only report I got was about one learner who didn't write, and it was not COVID-19, it was a taxi strike in Gauteng, but all the learners that had presented high temperature or had been had tested positive for COVID-19 have been writing exams under safe conditions. Teachers volunteered to invigilate. There were also lots of people, even the team that had gone to Wuhan had really offered that they will monitor the health workers, but there are also health volunteers that come forward and offered to help with invigilation. So there's not been any problem at all with ensuring that all learners are able to write. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable KRJ Meshu.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Among the more than 1 million matric students writing grade 12 exams are those who missed months of schooling and were prevented from writing June exams because of lockdown. As a result, they are under tremendous pressure and they fear possible failure because of short preparation time and the additional risk of possible COVID-19 infection. For some students, the violent protests that took place outside Brackenfell High School earlier this month also added to their anxiety. What measures will be taken to assure learners and educators of their personal protection against violence, health concerns, and psychological support due to the immense pressure on them at this time? Thank you.
No, thank you very much, Member Michwe, and thanks for the question. Member, what I can assure you is that we are all very conscious of the fact that this class was a class really that was confronted with insurmountable problems, was confronted with a situation that we've never all experienced before. And hence, we all galvanized, not only ourselves as a department, but there were academics that came forward to say, can we offer help? The private sector was very gracious. They offered lots of support, hence where that was a matric program. But professionals from different walks of life rallied around them. And I can assure you that the South Africans, we did as much as we could to make sure that indeed they don't lose a year, because they were also anxious about not continuing the year. So to continue created another form of anxiety, but also not to continue the year was also creating another form of anxiety. So what I can say with all the gratitude is to thank all professionals, members, university lecturers, the private sector that came to the fore, the media also. I mean, media houses were helping us with all sorts of programs, both your learning and teaching, but also psychosocial services. We continue to support them, to look after them, because we're aware that they're writing under very difficult conditions. On other areas where taxi strikes, your protests everywhere else, again, we're working together with our provinces to continue to provide them with support. I can assure you that, for instance, when there were difficulties in the Western Cape Department removed grade 12 from that area, so they're not part of the challenges that are there, and they can ride peacefully and safely elsewhere. Say in Gauteng, when there were taxi strikes, the province organized alternative places to make sure that, again, that those learners are protected. So for the first time, we've really provided more support than we usually do, because we are aware that these young learners or these young people were confronted by just very serious difficulties, and we hope that they will survive the storm and they will prevail at the end of it all. Thank you very much, ma'am.
The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Minister, despite your intervention and your audit, many of your staff and educators in different schools have been complaining about the readiness, particularly to deal with the issue of COVID-19. Could you give us some statistics? How many of these learners have been either admitted to hospital or may have died since the examinations have started? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member. I'm not aware of any learner who would have died now during exams. I know that our learners would have presented the normal challenges. I was told, for instance, there's a learner who gave birth during exams and teachers had to assist. So there are all these difficulties that we usually experience. There's a learner who had a bout of piles, had to write on his stomach. So these are the usual problems that we always encounter during exams, because these are young people who have all sorts of challenges. But I'm not aware of any learner that would have died. And therefore, maybe you know one of them, but I've not received any report. On the other hand, about non-readiness, really strange enough, Member, I'm not sure, maybe it's because they're young and really positive. During exams, before exams, I visited a number of schools and I kept on asking, are you ready? And they will all say, we're ready, let the matric exams come. So I've never heard reports that they're saying, hey, we're not ready. All the time they kept on saying they're ready, and not only to me, even to officials who went to provinces to check the state of readiness. I can assure you, we will not be surprised if these learners perform beyond our expectations the way they are ready, Member. Thank you very much.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable S.L. Ngobo.
That was something else.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. For many students who rely on the department to provide meals, exam time is a period where, unless they will be traveling to school to write, they will go without meals for the day. Parents have suffered tremendous economic difficulty caused by COVID-19 pandemic, making it very difficult for many to provide their children with necessities such as food. Has the department considered implementing a voucher or food parcel program to assist these learners during final examinations? If so, what are the details of such plans? And if not, what is the position of the minister on this issue? Thank you, Chairperson.
The Honourable Minister.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Member Ngobo. And you're quite right that there are lots of difficulties that have been brought around by the virus, but there are also balances. I mean, you have to balance things out. That will we call kids who are going to write at 2 o'clock to come to school to eat? No, we wouldn't, because they have to be ready. They're very anxious. And I'm not sure if they want to go and stand in food queues. So we've not arranged anything around food parcels or vouchers. No, not at all. So we've treated this year the way we always do, that they will come when they're writing exams. And now at the thick of exams, what they want to do, as soon as they're finished, if they're writing from 9 to 11, they want to go back and prepare further. And I've not had any reports or incidents of any difficulties, because you would know, for instance, as a person who's worked in the sector, that we always organize or mobilize communities and parents in particular to support our grade 12s. So we've not encountered a situation where we felt that there was a need now to start putting in place food parcels for grade 12s. We've not done it because we have not identified it as a need, but I'm sure possibly there are learners who would have benefited if we did it, but we didn't do it because we didn't find the need to do it. We're just focusing on helping them to revise at every hour because, as you correctly say, they've lost lots of time. So any time is precious for them, and so we didn't do it. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we will now move to question number 632 that has been asked by the Honourable Lutuli to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. The Honourable Minister. Is the Honourable Minister on the platform? The Honourable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. The Honourable Minister is on the platform. You must just unmute your mic, Honourable Minister.
Ask Louis to take the question.
The Honourable Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture.
Yes, Chair.
Please proceed. Question 6. Question 632.
Yes, I must firstly thank the Honourable Lutuli who has asked this question and say to him that he will know, like all of us, that football remains one of the priority sports, in fact, #1 sport in the Republic of South Africa. And given its popularity among South Africans from all walks of life, it is one such sport that had the ability to contribute positively in the program and process of social transformation and social cohesion and nation building. Whilst acknowledging, as he does, the historic unsatisfactory performance of the senior men's team, Bafana Bafana, there is due recognition on areas of football, which continues to raise the South African flag. This in particular, the rise of the senior women's team, or Banyana Banyana. I think that we should be able to recognize that they are making strides internationally. Government is cognizant of the challenges facing football and requisite interventions which are needed. On the issue of the candidacy of Dr. Patrice Motsepe for the presidency of CAF, is not only envisaged to assist in advancing South African football. His credentials as a global entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and his football as well as business successes and acumen can only be beneficial to the growth of football on the continent as a whole. This, noting that he has made immense contribution to the advancement of football in South Africa. It is the considered view of SAFA that his strict governance or observance of governance, his legal training, his global business network, and his commitment and love to African and world football will come in very handy for the leadership on the continent. His focus areas are areas of growth of women's football, technology and innovation, to improve Africa's competitiveness, closing the financial disparity, strengthening zonal federations as football delivery platforms, building bridges and partnering between football, business, and strengthening of governance and ethics, again, will come in handy under his leadership. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. I've been informed that the Honourable Schlengwa will take charge of the first supplementary question on behalf of the Honourable Lutuli in accordance with Rule 137, Sub-Rule 10A. The Honourable Schlengwa.
Thank you very much, Honourable House Chairperson. Honourable Minister Nyambose, of course, whilst we all support the candidacy of Dr. Motsepe, one of the fundamental challenges that he will be confronted with should he win is the issue of corruption, which has gripped CAF itself. But of course, that's a case of deja vu for any South African because, I mean, our own country is riddled with its own corruption. The second point, Minister, is that FIFA, amongst others, takes a very dim view on the interference of governments insofar as sport administration is concerned. And therefore, looking one at the issue of corruption and secondly, the issue of non-interference which is expected. What assurances can you give that South Africa does not support, supports Dr. Motsepe, but does not intend to interfere with his work and will ensure that his support is non-politicized and will not bring about further controversy to CAF, which in itself in this recent week there have been some serious outcomes insofar as its leadership is concerned vis-a-vis corruption. And therefore, can you give the assurances to Africa and the world that South Africa will be able to stay in its lane to ensure that the restoration of CAF's credibility does not find itself mired in the perception, real and otherwise, of corruption which currently prevails in South Africa? So in other words, let's not take corruption to Africa.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable Member Hlengwa, touching a very critical point, which has been observed over time, of issues of observance of governance ethics, particularly and ethics in sport, particularly football. It's precisely the reason why, as government, we support football. Because remember, this is exclusively a decision of football, the mother body of football in the country, which is SAFA. So we support that. And I can assure you, Honourable Member, as the Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, that ours would be that support. We won't interfere. In fact, we don't interfere because we believe that the sporting fraternity, particularly the leadership in sport, should be able to run sport. When we hear that we come in, it's because we see problems within sport and we can't fold our arms when we see a possible death knell to sport. But generally, we are happy to observe and support our sport in the country. Thank you very much, Honourable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Mhlongo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, what prompted South African government from supporting or endorsing Mr. Motsepe for a CAF presidency? Will the government endorse another South African who wishes to contest for the same position? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. My answer to Honourable Mhlongo is yes.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Adams.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Honourable Minister, how can South Africa make use of the position and influence that we have on the African football arena to not only unite the continent, but also create a better Africa in better world? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Adams. And it's precisely the reason why we would always give support to compatriots who would be in a position to assist in contributing to sport, especially stabilizing sport in the country and on the continent, and in this specific case, football. football is very key, Honorable Member, as you say. It's very key in uniting people. And that is why we'll always be uncomfortable all the time when our senior men's team is not doing as much as it's supposed to, because we know that if they do well, they contribute to the happiness index in this country. And having people sharing spaces, South Africans, across all divides. So we would want that to happen, and we'll play our role in ensuring that we support those who would ensure that social cohesion and continental unity is achieved.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Madeleine Kosi.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, South African football is in shambles, led by a fugitive from justice, Danny Jordaan. They have no development plans whatsoever about our football. And they have recently appointed someone with no track record to be the national team coach. Have you engaged with the leadership of SAFA to ascertain, if the nomination of Patrice Motsepe for the position of CAF president is for footballing reasons or it is for advancement of political ambitions? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thanks to Honourable Madlingozi. Honourable Madlingozi would have to understand that we definitely would not meddle on issues of sport, particularly at an operational level. Who becomes the head coach, part of the technical team, will never get into that. And I think he can have his interaction and his views and suggest perhaps some of the best coaches he may have or think about. On the issue of SAFA appointing, there is nothing which suggests that the appointment of Dr. Motsepe would be anything near political ambition. I've just said what the focus or his focus is in terms of sport on the continent. And remember that football has been battered a lot, particularly from the point of view of ethics and integrity. And we definitely need to have some level of fresh air, if you like, where things would be done accordingly and ensure that the glory of the sport and its sporting days are, accorded or given necessary accorded. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we now proceed to question number 637 that has been asked by the Honourable Boshoff to the Minister of Higher Education, Science and Technology. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair, and thanks to Honourable Boshoff for the question that he has asked. I just want to say, maybe before I go to the nub of the question on whether there is corruption or not, just to explain a bit of background that this AeroSwift is responsible for applying a technology that uses powder spray to make a part of a particular product using what is normally called 3D laser printing. This technology has been produced by the Center for Scientific and Industrial Research, the CSIR, as a new way of manufacturing components, unlike the old way of manufacturing components. And the CSIR, with its intellectual property, this laser, identified Aeroswift to produce, as a partner, to produce parts of components that are required in the aerospace industry, and they had a joint venture. And the intellectual property was kept by the CSIR, but shared in this joint venture. But Aeroswift had a subsidiary company called Aerosuit, which was producing parts domestically for the aerospace industry. And this partner to Aeroswift had financial problems, and in the process it got liquidated. Now, there was then a whistleblower, just to come to the issue of corruption, who pointed out that this is causing problems for the CSIR because this money to try and save the partner that was being liquidated was siphoned off illegally and corruptly from the CSIR. So an investigation was undertaken by the CSIR and Aeroswift through forensic investigators, whether this is true, whether in particular the intellectual property of the CSIR is protected. And also, are the claims true that this money was siphoned off the CSIR? I have got a forensic report, which I'm willing to share with members of parliament who have an interest, which shows that these allegations were not true. It's a subsidiary of Aeroswift that was liquidated, not Aeroswift. So the money was not siphoned from the CSIR, and the intellectual property still stays with the CSIR. But in the light of the question by Honorable Boshoff, I have requested the chairperson of the board of the CSIR to give me a much detailed report which will build on the forensic investigation report that the CSIR already has. So CSIR IP is protected, and it's the subsidiary of a partner to CSIR that was liquidated. That is my answer, Honorable Chairperson.
Honorable Member, there is a member who's got her microphone on, and it disturbed the Minister during the last part of his reply. Please ensure your microphone is off. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Boshoff.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair, and thank you to Honorable Minister Dr. Nzimande for the answer. I just want to ask in connection with this, is it true that a loan, an intercompany loan from Aeroswift to Aerosuit was made by the end of 2018 of several million rands, which had not never been repaid, and that Aeroswift again, made good the loss by drawing on advances which was still forthcoming from the DSI. In other words, that the CSIR advanced the money to Aeroswift, which still had to be received from the DSI. And is there also problems around time statements which were falsified in 2017, apparently where the CSIR actually accrued money for which no work was done, and in fact it didn't cost the CSIR any money, but it's nevertheless not, shall we say, a proper way of doing business. Thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair of Chairs, and thanks to Honourable Boshoff. As I have said, the forensic investigation which was done by George Fiver's company found that there is no money that has been taken off the CSIR, and that the intellectual property of the CSIR, has not been stolen. It still remains with the CSIR. So all these allegations, according to this forensic investigation report, are not true. But the reason why, Honourable Boshoff, I have asked the chairperson of the CSIR to give me a report is so that I'm able then to answer your question comprehensively. To see then if there were any dealings between Aeroswift and its subsidiary that may actually lead to the changes of money that could have affected the money from the DSI. So far, there is no money from the DSI that has been involved. If then there were monies that could have changed hands between Aeroswift and its subsidiary, that's a different proposition altogether. But I wouldn't like to stand firm on that as now. Before I do then the two things that I said I'm willing to do, I'm willing to give you the forensic investigation from George Fiver's company. And then as soon as the chairperson of the CSIR, in the light of the question that we have asked, gives me a full report to see if there are any matters that perhaps could have been left out given the original forensic report, I will then be able to come back and answer that question. In fact, I wouldn't even wait for you to answer it. I will be able to pass that information to you, Honorable Bishop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Nodada.
Thank you so much, Chair. Minister, as you may know, the Department of Science and Innovation has been given an Excellence Award recently, and obviously we wouldn't want any clout to come to its entities, such as entities like the CSIR. Beyond the response that you've given on the forensic investigation that has been done, there are quite a few whistleblowers that are still challenging that 150 million of taxpayers' money that has been spent on the project, and the project is yet still incomplete, as you mentioned, because of the subsidiary. And there's an allegation of a fraud amounting to over 6 million in this particular entity. This was an innovation that was supposed to establish a titanium beneficiary industry in South Africa, and we recently visited the space that you're talking about at the CSIR in January.
Get to the question, Honourable Member, you're running out of time.
Therefore is, in order for us to clear these allegations, would you institute a full forensic investigation beyond the report that you're going to get from the board? If yes, when would it be? If not, why not? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. As I have already said, well, thank you. Firstly, thanks for your kind words. Let's congratulate my Department of Science and Innovation and its DG for having been given an award for being the best performing department and the best DG. As I have already said, if from the report of the chairperson of the CSIR, I sense that there are gaps or other questions, there's nothing that will stop me from undertaking, as minister now directly, a full forensic investigation. But I can't jump the gun before I get that report to say I will do that or not. But if I smell a rat, I will definitely go fully into investigation, because, Honourable Notata, what I would like to say to you is that I am really concerned that in our research and development innovation value chain, possibly there are still leakages in terms of intellectual property, the benefit of the state, if it was research and development funded by government. All those things are in my radar. But specifically on this one, if I smell a rat from the report of the chairperson or something I'm not satisfied with, I will do an investigation, but I can't commit before I see that final report. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Yabo.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. My question is to the Minister. Noting the groundbreaking impact of the Aeroswift 3D laser printing project as the world's largest and fastest powder metal 3D printer, what framework exists to ensure innovation partnerships are transparent and beneficial for the CSIR and the South African economy? Thank you, Chair.
The Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chair, though that's a slightly different question from Honourable Yabo, but I'm glad he's asking it in this instance because it relates to the point I was making earlier, that I am very keen to ensure that research and development funded by government, there must be transparency, there must be cleanliness, no corruption, and also, by the way, government must be able to to get some resources back to reinvest into research and development. What I'm doing now, which at some stage I can talk about, is that I have commissioned an investigation into the Technology Innovation Agency, which is our main entity that looks after the translation of intellectual property for commercial use and for commercial purposes, insofar as products that derive from R&D, research and development funded by government. The reason why I'm reviewing the Technology Innovation Agency is precisely in order to address and create a proper framework for dealing with this transition from intellectual property to commercialization, which Honorable Yabo is talking about. Thank you very much, Chair.
The last supplementary question will be asked by the Honorable Ngobo.
Thank you very much, House Chair. The Honourable Minister Mpepeta will note that the gist of the problem is corruption and maladministration. And the question which one might want to ask is the Minister maybe considering that in his entities, something be done, something like appointing the taxpayer representations, for instance, in NSFAS, just an example, because what I'm talking about, the issue is maladministration and corruption, which is actually ravaging the department. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much to Honourable Ngobo Fuze. Ngane kwethu bengakayiboni le corruption engaka kulomnyango wami we-Science and Innovation. Angisho ukuthi ayikho kodwa bengingakahlangani nayo. Indlela lomnyango osebenza kahle ngayo ikakhulukazi ekuphenduleni izinto ezenziwe ngobuchwepheshe ziyokwazi ukuthi zenze imali noma kwakheka izimboni ezintsha namabhizinisi amasha. Besasebenza kahle kuphela nje ngikushilo lokho ukuthi ngiyayiphenya kodwa yana yonke lento ukuthi azikho yini izinto uhulumeni afika afaka imali kube khona izinto zobuchwepheshe ezingenza imali bese kuba khona izigebengu ezibaleka nako lokho kube ngathi awuzange uhulumeni akazange ayifaka imali. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm really watching that with the eyes of a hawk, and so far my department and its entities, we have not been really ravaged by acts of corruption to the extent that I am panicking at the moment. But where I identify this, I will be able to act. Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we will now proceed to question number 614 that has been asked by the Honourable Janki to the Minister of Health. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. The question from Honourable Janki, thank you very much for the question. It says, given that while the primary threat posed by COVID-19 relates to physical health of persons, the pandemic has also taken its toll on economy, social and cultural activities and the mental health of persons. Are there studies by this department, A, to show the effect of the pandemic on mental health? B, has the department seen an increase in mental health disorders? The response, I will have tabled for the members a table that gives you a bit more of the details, but just to highlight that in our knowledge, there have been studies, and there are some studies which are ongoing by research and academic institutions as well as non-governmental organizations. One study was done by Rothman I, Holobra Chambers, and COVID-19, De Beer, and it's about employee mental health, the reality behind the rhetoric. It looks at the disruption of increased, the disruption COVID-19 imposes on stress, increasing stress levels of employees, and the top concerns around South African employees and in the area of the child care, schooling, family health, and so on. The other one is by Supramani, Wayung, Chetty INS, Jaira, and Govender. And this one was published by Investor Witwatersrand. Current discussion in the psychiatric literature on COVID-19 report anxiety disorders as predominant set of clinical presentations. Then the other one is by Mudiriza G. Lano, by University of Cape Town. Findings showed a prevalence of depressive symptoms in 72% amongst the young participants, which are high compared to results of those gathered outside COVID-19 context. Fourth one by Okin Roberts, Bola, and Alexandra, collaboration of HSRC and University of Johannesburg, talks about preliminary results suggesting sizable share of South African adults experiencing a range of negative emotions during lockdown. Another one by COVID-19 and mental health team, which is the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. It's looking at the mental health challenges experienced during the lockdown, including anxiety, panic, financial stress, etc. Another one by Wong Kim, Nyengerai, Emily Menderhal, and others, which is collaboration with MRC and Witwatersrand, talk about higher perceived risk of COVID infection associated with depressive symptoms amongst the adults with childhood trauma. Then Abrahams, Boistis, Mhlamnyane, Schneider, and Land, etc., through University of Cape Town. The study was looking at lockdown, has been successful in capping the spread of COVID-19, but also looked at levels of high levels of mental disorders associated with high levels of food insecurity. Another one, collaborative outcomes of health and functioning during the COVID times, which was done by COVID study. More than 200 investigators involved, and the respondents reported high levels of stress. So those were some of the publications. And on B, based on the summary provided in the above table, 2 studies investigated whether there's been an increase in mental health disorders during the specified period. The studies were conducted amongst youth and perinatal women. Both these studies found that the pandemic with its lockdown resulted in increased level of common mental disorders. Data collected by Department of Health through the district's information system shows that there has not been an increase in the number of people that were seen by our primary healthcare facilities and hospital outpatients on the period of 2020 March to September 2020 compared to the same period. So there was no increase in admission of mental health problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The first supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Janki. Is the Honourable Janki on the platform?
Yes, Chair of Chairs. Thank you very much. And thank you to the Minister for the response. In fact, the Minister has covered some of the questions that I would have asked. One is really excited that our institutions and some of our scientists have already embarked on these studies of checking the impact of COVID-19 on mental health. We're very pleased that they've so many studies have already been done in our country. Because we know that the mental health is one of the areas that we are focusing on as health.
Do you have a question, Honourable Member?
Yes, Chairperson, in fact, he's already answered the question that I would have asked.
Okay.
Because I would have asked
Thank you.
how many studies have already been done in the country checking on the mental health, and I would have asked whether they have seen an increase in the mental disorders during this period of COVID-19, and he also covered that.
Thank you. Thank you. Honourable Minister, is there anything you wish to respond to?
No, thank you very much. I think we do have an understanding. It's an area that needs to be studied further, and we must say that there has to be always a watchful eye put on the question of the impact of COVID-19, particularly as it might be affecting staff, health workers, but as common communities as well. So there will be lots of these, I think, in future that will be done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Thring.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, COVID-19 has indeed taken its toll on many sectors, including the physical and mental health of individuals. It is possibly for this reason that some are calling for a COVID-19 vaccine, even a mandatory one. Now, the development of vaccines must undergo stringent regimens and normally take up to 10 years to develop, as they have to go through animal trials and randomized double-blind placebo-controlled studies. And additionally, most vaccines now contain MRC5, which is aborted fetal cells and other DNA material in it, with the risk of iatrogenic reactions. Now, can the Minister confirm whether and when there will be a mandatory vaccine in South Africa that has followed a stringent regimen? And if so, will the contents of this vaccine be made available to the general public? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Very interesting question, moving from the issues of mental health to vaccine. Nevertheless, I think this is a topical matter. So we should say firstly that the vaccine is one of the ways, or in fact is the main way of how we can protect our communities from the spread of COVID-19. Ordinarily, the vaccine development process takes very long, several years, sometimes more than 10 years. Right now, we're still struggling to get a vaccine on HIV. We're trying a lot of different ways. So the COVID-19 has been with us only for a year, and we've got over 200 vaccine candidates that have been tried, that have been developed. At this point, only about 11 have shown successful results that are showing that they might be moving towards a conclusion, a successful conclusion. Now, for each one of those vaccines, there will always be a clear understanding as to what constitutes the vaccine. Some of the vaccines are based on what we call messenger RNA, which is a biotechnological coding, which assists the body to convert its own DNA to create some of the immunoglobulins that are needed to protect the patient. Some of them are portions of contents of the cells or nucleus of the cells, adenovirus vaccines. Some of them are linked to certain portions of the viral sheath or capsule, so that the body can respond to that. So there will always be a clear basis as to how this vaccine has been constituted. So we can never have a vaccine that we don't know how it's being developed. And fortunately, there's a whole lot of ethics committees that are observing this process. Whether the vaccines will be mandatory, I think that in our situation, we would like to recommend the vaccines, when available, to be taken by those who are at highest risk, who will be identified as highest risk. And then, of course, we move on until we are able to get the whole population covered. with the vaccine so that there's protection. So I'm not sure when the question is about mandatory vaccine, whether it's actually saying that people will all be forced to do the vaccine. I think the best approach is to say that we will be able to recommend for everyone to take the vaccine, and as and when it's needed, based on the category of the people that they'll be falling into. That's how we'll be approaching it. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The third supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Ishmael.
Thank you, Chair. We are experiencing a major backlog of forensic psychiatric evaluations in state patients. There are numerous reports of mental patients being abused due to lack of security at state or state and public institutions. Yet the recent annual report findings show that the department performed dismally on the mental health in the 2019-2020
Honourable
year.
Ishmael, my apologies for interrupting you,
Yes.
but we in the chamber could not hear, and the Minister also could not hear the first part of the remarks that you're making. Can you just repeat, please, and just go a little bit slower?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. We are experiencing a major backlog on forensic psychiatric evaluations in state patients. There are numerous reports of mental patients being abused due to lack of security at some of our public healthcare institutions. Yet, the recent annual report findings show that the department performed dismally on the mental health program in the 2019-2020 financial year. The entire mental health budget was spent, yet not one target was achieved. Minister, what plans is the department going to put in place, since mental health care is going to be a strategic healthcare need going forward due to the consequences and impact of COVID-19 on many South Africans, and considering the mental health strategic framework comes to an end in this financial year? When will we receive a policy plan to replace it? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you very much. Let me say that one area that we do have challenges is the area of mental health. I think part of the challenge has to do with the fact that it tends to be a very complex area to deal with. So the challenges of shortage of human resources do actually play their role in this particular area. But the fact that mental health is a very broad area that actually moves beyond psychiatric care, institutionalized psychiatric care, right onto community preventative programs, means that it's going to take us quite a while to be able to say we have covered all the areas. We will then be reviewing the framework and therefore looking at how we can correct all the challenges that have been experienced up to now, so that as we move on, it's one of the areas that remain a high priority for purposes of dealing with some of the non-communicable diseases that are part of the disease burden that we are dealing with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. And the last supplementary question will be asked by the Honourable Chirwa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, part of the strategic objectives in Program 3 in the year 2019 to 2020 was to expand access to mental health care services through the purchasing of mental health care services in the private sector. Because you, Minister, together with your department, have failed to build this kind of capacity in the public sector. And even then, Minister, having set very low targets for yourself as the Department of Health, you still failed to deliver on this primary objective. And your target was a mere 22,000 in a country where millions of South Africans are suffering from mental health care issues during the coronavirus pandemic. You, Minister, and your department failed to deliver on a mere 22,000 patients. Now, how then do we entrust you going forward when you have failed as a minister to deliver mental health care services effectively and efficiently to the poorest of the communities in townships and rural areas, to young people
Honourable
in
Member,
universities?
your time is now expired.
To deliver mental health care services. How do we trust you
Honourable
going
Member, your
forward?
time is expired.
How do you overcome your failure?
Don't shout here. Watch your tone.
Honourable members. Honourable members. Honourable members, let's allow the Minister to respond. I hope you got the question. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. Firstly, where the targets were missed in the previous financial year, we have to review them so that we incorporate what is outstanding onto the future plans. So that's how we will deal with the issue of the gaps in relation to previous performance. The mental health service issue relating to the private health, private sector, we make this as a provision so that whenever there is need, where government capacity is unable to reach out to all the patients who need care, that we can actually approach the private sector and make sure that we give the service to all those who need it. Indeed, during this year, when we're focusing on the coronavirus pandemic, a number of services did lapse in the sense that the pressure that we have experienced made it impossible to go through all of the, particularly during the days of the lockdown where movement of individuals was difficult. And so when we went to level 3, we ended up with a whole program to activate all people to return to utilize the health services so that we can catch up. So we have now in all the various programs, a program to try and catch up with whatever services we might have missed during those difficult days of the lockdown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, we now proceed to question number 640 that has been asked by the Honourable Powell to the Minister of Human Settlements, Water and Sanitation. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, for the question. Honourable Semenya, this is something that we discovered in the department was not providing maximum security for a department such as ours. You will no doubt remember that when we came in here, one of the messages that had been given to us by the Minister of Finance is the level of corruption that he said he found in the department. With huge losses to the fiscus. You yourselves, when you came in as members of parliament, asked me to attend to this matter on an urgent basis. And I'm glad that finally you have had the interaction with the SIU. And the question you ask is a very apt one. No, we do have the capacity within the department for the entities the entity that you're talking about, which is the entity for internal audit. It consists of three directorates. It's a fully fledged entity. However, we have discovered with time that its inclusion within the department limits its scope of independence, it limits its ability to investigate because it is part and parcel of the department. So the conclusion that the SIU has arrived at, that perhaps, what makes it unable to do what it should do is because of the structure of the department. We have proceeded to make sure that we can restructure the department. We've restructured the department and created or be able to investigate, audit, and give prior warning to us should there be anything wrong that should be brought to our attention. We've restructured, we've reviewed our capacity of the entirety of the department. We have reviewed the structure of the department.
Please pause, Minister. There's a point of order. Thank you, Minister. Just pause. Just pause. There's a point of order. What's your point of order, Member?
Mr. House Chair, I believe the Minister is answering the incorrect question. We're now on question 640. The question relating to the SIU is much further down the question paper.
Yeah.
Minister? We are
my sincerest
a question asked by Honourable Powell.
My sincerest apologies. I was ahead of myself. Yes, the question is a question asked by Honorable Powell. If you will allow me, Chair, a little more time so that I can answer this one. The budget cuts generally, and in particular in our case in human settlements, will have a very negative effect on us, especially in the delivery of housing opportunities. The total amount that has of the grant for 2020-2021 before the budget adjustment in June was 16 billion. This has further been reduced to 14 billion. We had already started calculating on the 16 billion, which constitutes a reduction of 1 billion, etc. And as we have a table that has a breakdown of where we've had the cuts, and it has significantly reduced our capacity to deliver. But we have come up with a new policy, Honourable Member, which we have shared with the various provinces, and we have had the opportunity to share this approach with the minister, with the mayor of Cape Town, together with his council, which is called the Rapid Land Label to Able-Bodied People. We will be providing them with subsistence allowance to buy the material, provide them with land, provide them with infrastructure, and they will build their land, their own houses. We're hoping that in this way we will not suffer the backlog that would naturally come out of a budget that has been cut in the way that it has been taken away from ourselves. So we are planning to go ahead. We already have 200,000 service sites, and we're hoping that this will grow, and we will be able to encourage our people to take this offer up so that we help them build their own houses. And in that way, they will probably build better houses than we do. I don't know, but we're certain that it will give them the necessary capacity to do that. It will also give them the skills to build, after which they're able to sell their skills to any other industry that requires construction know-how. That's it, Chairperson. The answer is yes. We have suffered greatly from the budget cuts, but we are making do with an alternative way of providing our people.
Thank you, Minister. The first supplementary will go to Honourable Powell in the House.
Thanks for the response, Honourable Minister. Minister, in the last financial year, 2019-2020, your department only achieved 63% of its targets. In the previous financial year, it achieved 82% of its targets. This is the best possible indication we have that the country's housing department is rapidly regressing in terms of its outputs, despite the appointment of your multi-million rand advisory committees and national rapid response task teams. It's also important to note, in light of this declining performance, Minister, that it has taken you longer than 18 months to appoint a permanent Director General. To take a closer look at the figures, last year, while the department managed to spend 98% of its budget, its actual performance declined to 63%. In the Human Settlements Delivery Program, which is the department's most important function, overall performance declined to a meagre 47.3%. This, despite the department spending more than 84%. Minister, numbers don't lie. Would you agree that Treasury's decision to drastically cut your department's budget this year is not simply as a result of the ANC's commitment to keep propping up bankrupt state-owned enterprises like SAA at the expense of frontline services, but that these cuts are also as a result of your department's rank inability to actually provide basic services to its citizens, such as housing and shelter?
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chair, the Honourable member knows very well that what she is saying is completely incorrect. We rank the highest in the world in the delivery of housing for our people. That is undoubted, recognized by the United Nations. We're very proud of that. However, she knows very well that we do not control a central budget. The budget goes directly to the provinces. And one of the provinces with the lowest delivery of housing is the Western Cape. She can then explain to us why it is that the Western Cape is the lowest deliverer of houses, far surpassed by smaller, much more smaller allocations to other sectors. What she is doing is just looking for the necessary attention to deal with a matter that is actually a very serious matter. The matter of the provision of housing goes to the right, to the essence of the rights of the people. We do our damnedest to make sure that we can deliver. Where we have not been able to deliver, we are able to rotate the resources that we have to those provinces that have delivered to give them the capacity to deliver more. Where we have not, where there has been a decline in the delivery, it has been for other reasons, either because there has been a change of government, or either because there has been an election in the interim. But what you are trying to concoct now is just trying to get attention. I do not have a multi-million rand ministerial advisory team. I actually have one advisor, Menzies Melane, who's been my advisor for a very long time. And the NRTT is that very same NRTT that helped us deal with that chaos that we found in the Western Cape when the Western Cape police ejected, outside the laws of this country, evicted a man who was in his house having a bath. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary question will be taken by Honorable Tseke. Honorable Tseke. Honorable Tseke.
I will speak on behalf of Honorable Tseke.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. It is known that most of government energies and resources have been focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. The network is...
Honorable Tseke, go ahead.
Yes, I have a problem with the network. I'm back. It is known that most of government energies and resources have been focused on the COVID-19 pandemic. This has affected the department's planned targets over the medium term. As these plans were drafted before the pandemic, given the minister's response, how has the department ensured it mitigates the negative effects of these budget cuts? We are due to
Thank you, member. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Can I finish up, Honorable Chair?
Your time has expired. Thank you. Your time has expired, member. Thank you. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much.
Honorable Minister.
Honorable Chair, throughout the period of COVID, we were allowed, I think, at level 5 to begin construction. And so we directed our energies to those programs that would have the highest yield. For instance, the building of shared services and the provision of structures on the ground. And where it succeeded, it was very good. And where it didn't, we are dealing with the matter. But we were able to continue. And how did we mitigate against the impact of COVID? We are making sure that in this coming year, the proposal that we have of land release, and we must thank both the Deputy President and the Minister of Agriculture for allocating to us the land that is nearest to where people would like to be, which is nearest to urban areas. We will be using it for releasing land and making sure that people can build their own houses. We believe that this will cover the gap that we have suffered during the COVID period. However, in those areas such as shared services, we have been able to provide our people with the greatest number of units. And we took the time during COVID to advertise what we were doing, because that was the only way we can assure them that we are attending to some of the issues that they are concerned about. We continue to have a huge backlog in human settlements. And we believe if we allow people to build for themselves, it will motivate them to do it themselves. We might be able to cut back on we might be able to fast track those people that are waiting for houses. But we were able to sit down and mitigate the loss that we would have incurred during the COVID. We are also hoping to make use of this period that we have now.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Thank you, Honourable Minister. Your time has expired.
Ensure that we upgrade.
Thank you, Minister. Then the third supplementary goes to Honourable Muhlala.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Minister, you recently announced that your department was considering giving out land for the people. And you just reiterated your statement now here in Parliament to build their own houses. Instead of the government building and giving houses to the homeless, what informed this decision? Is it a tacit acknowledgement that the state has failed to fulfill its duties by making sure that people have their rights to housing fulfilled? Minister, how are you planning to have this rolled out in a manner that would be free of corruption? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
The three questions here. The first one is that I have indicated, yes, we are looking at a new policy that will allow us to give land to people so that they can build that for themselves. This is an old policy that we have used over a long period of time. There are pockets along the N2, which is one of our projects, where we have allowed people land and they have built for themselves. What we're doing now is reviving that policy, building their own houses very carefully. Secondly, what made us take this decision? What made us take this decision was when we were confronted with the possibility that with a lockdown, our output would be much lower than we expected that it would be. And we had land invasions, notably in the Western Cape and in Gauteng as well. And we sat down with the people who were invading the land, and they indicated to us, notably the EFF, I don't know why you missed that, being in that party, that they wouldn't mind building their own houses within a government that allows people to build their own houses. Right now, the reason why I'm emphasizing it is because it is the people's choice. When we went to them, when they'd invaded land, they indicated that the list for the government delivery is very long. They wouldn't mind being given the opportunity to build their own houses. We are responsive to the people. If you had listened yourself, Honourable Muhlala, to your people, they would have told you so. So we are providing for that particular policy as an alternative. We will continue building houses for our people, especially the indigent. Nothing takes one from the other. We've had these policies running alongside each other. However, we're giving now equal weight to them to see if we cannot have a greater yield from people doing it themselves. We're not denying them their right to a house. We're giving them the land. We're giving them the support. We're giving them the material to build that house. So I'm not sure what it is that you are getting at.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The last supplementary question will be asked by Honourable Imam Sheikh.
Thank you, House Chairperson and Minister. Let me congratulate you and commend you for this decision. The first time I see you talking the walk, because Minister, for 5 years, I'm one of them that's been calling for providing service sites, because some politicians are happy to give the people on the ground the crumbs and let them live in RDP houses. What you're giving back to the people right now through service sites and is their dignity and their identity back. So well done as far as that is concerned. Now, the issue is, Minister, how do you envisage getting enough land and making it a national policy to roll out the scheme throughout every province in the length and breadth of this country, working with municipalities to provide the services? I promise you, if you do that, you'll have economic development, job creation. Very importantly, you'll be giving back the dignity to these people. We once discussed the issue of the Human Settlement Development Bank. Are you considering public-private partnerships so people give them the land? I promise you, people are willing to pay 300, 400, 500 rand a month and get decent houses than these one-room shacks that they normally get. So thank you very much for that. Could you please tell us whether you intend working with the relevant people, private sector and the municipalities?
Your time has expired. The Honourable Minister.
Honourable Chair, I'd like to invite the Imam into my portfolio committee. He would really add a lot of flavour there. Thank you for that. The question about, where we're going to get the land and what we're going to do, we have approached various municipalities to release land. We have actually had in-depth discussion with the municipality of Cape Town. We sat down with the entire municipal management and indicated to them what it is that we would like to do, just as a test case following the disaster at Mpolweni in the Western Cape. And we believe that they have bought into that. What we are doing now is taking the whole package of the new policy to Cabinet. After that, we will then be making sure that we are out there, selling the idea to people. People who want houses will certainly take this up, and we are servicing it. We're using the infrastructure arrangement that the President has put in place. So we will be putting infrastructure and then parceling out the land for people to build themselves their own houses. And this is a very empowering exercise. Where it has been done, it really has empowered people. They're not stuck with the kind of size that we give them. They're able to augment it and choose the type of house that they would like to live in. And I hope that that answers most of your questions, Honourable Imam.
Thank you very much, Minister. We move to the next question. Question 628 has been asked by Honourable Mishra to the Minister of Health. The Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and to the Honourable Member for the question. First question, what amount has his department spent on awareness campaigns aimed at prevention and treatment of malaria in affected areas in 2019-20 financial year? 2, whether the campaign included preventative measures such as spraying of rooms and provision of mosquito nets. If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? The first answer, health promotion, health education, advocacy, and awareness campaigns are essential interventions for the prevention of malaria, morbidity, and mortality. In 2019, malaria pictorial charts were printed at the national level and distributed to all malaria-affected provinces to educate communities on malaria prevention and treatment. 400,000 was spent on designing, printing, distribution of the pamphlet of these charts, and a further 60,000 used to train environmental health practitioners to support door-to-door promotion campaigns. In Limpopo, the province spent 190,000 on awareness campaigns during the launch of the malaria spray season, July to June the following year. An additional 57,000 was spent on the World Malaria Day, and 170,000 utilized for activities during the SADC Malaria Day. Mpumalanga province spent 529,000 on the health awareness and radio campaigns, and a further 400,000 for both World Malaria and SADC Malaria Day commemorations. KwaZulu-Natal did not indicate a dedicated budget for health promotion and campaign awareness activities. Their expenses are incorporated into an integrated health promotion budget. Indoor residual spraying, that's the second answer, is a key intervention for malaria vector control outlined in the South African National Malaria Elimination Strategic Plan 2019-2023. It's implemented in the malaria endemic provinces of Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and KwaZulu-Natal. In 2019-20, South Africa achieved a spray average of 80.3%. The provincial coverages were as follows: Limpopo 94.9%, Mpumalanga 64.4%, and KwaZulu-Natal 70.2%. There were challenges in some of the communities that led to the late start of the spraying and low spray coverage. There was a timely start of indoor residual spraying. This year, despite the COVID-19 pandemic, the spraying started as planned in September in each of the malaria endemic provinces. As of 13th of November, a total of 721,293 structures have been sprayed of the targeted 2 million structures for 2020-2021 financial year. The current national spraying coverage 36.41%, and noting that the spraying will continue well into next year. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary, Honorable Mishwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. It is reported that in Africa, a child dies every 2 minutes from malaria, and yet the disease is preventable. In 1951, the US eradicated malaria, and in 1998, Mauritius did the same. We are disappointed that to date, South Africa has not followed suit. As malaria is difficult to diagnose because of early flu-like symptoms that can be confused with COVID-19, what is the department doing to ensure that those suffering from malaria are not mistakenly diagnosed as COVID-19 positive, as the symptoms are similar? In addition, how does the amount spent on the treatment of malaria compare to what the department is spending to deal with COVID-19? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. I think we do need a discussion with the Honorable Member, because I don't think in the context of South Africa we can confuse the issue of COVID-19 and malaria in terms of its symptomatology. South Africa is not as endemic on malaria as you will find in Angola or in Tanzania. We have a program to deal with malaria. Part of the challenge with South Africa is what we call imported cases, which means it doesn't matter how much you treat your patients in South Africa, if the neighboring country has still got people who come into our country and got malaria, they will bring in, and when they're in our country, the normal mosquitoes that could have been where there was less malaria could actually transmit the infection to the next person. The symptoms are more or less the same. They are different though. In a situation like where we are, I don't want to go into the symptomatology of the two, but where there are problems of malaria, where malaria is endemic, you need to have a higher level of suspicion. And in fact, it's not difficult to make the distinction, because for the doctors who are dealing with those management at that level, all you need is to actually treat the patient for malaria, take the blood for treatment, and then wait for the results for the PCR for the COVID-19. Within 10 hours, you'll have the answer, because if it's malaria, the temperature is going to come down, and if it is COVID-19, you'll wait for the results. It will show you what the situation is. So there is no confusion. It's important for our people to always know that they must keep a high level of suspicion for both situations. The question of elimination of malaria is in the plan of the AU, and right now we've got what we call Elimination 8, which is dealing with focusing on the area, on the countries where South Africa is part of, which can work together to eliminate malaria on both sides of the boundary, and therefore push the malaria boundary further up into the central part of the continent. It's a long challenge. It needs lots of resources. America has them. You can't compare that with Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The second supplementary will be asked by Honorable Dlomo.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thanks to the Minister for that already introductory comment on the question I'm going to ask. As an African National Congress, we wish to congratulate the Minister Mkhize on your recent appointment as a chairperson of the SADC Elimination 8 Ministers of Health Council. This coalition of 8 countries will be working across national borders to eliminate malaria in Southern Africa by 2030. There is no doubt that this is a huge responsibility, Honorable Minister, but not impossible. Cuba, for instance, has eliminated malaria, and that has improved the life expectancy of the Cuban people. What programs do you envisage to embark on to realize this noble commitment of SADC by 2030? Thank you.
Thank you. The Minister.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your very kind words. Let me say that this is one of our dreams to eliminate malaria out of SADC and out of the African continent. In fact, I can go back and recall many years back, a whole plan had been made to look at elimination of malaria in 3 phases. The first phase was about getting rid of malaria right up to the northern part of Maputo or of Mozambique and the other African states. And the second one would move this right towards Tanzania, and after that move it past the equator. This, the Medical Research Council had played a very significant role in dealing with this, training a whole lot of people as malariologists who will understand how to deal with this problem. And the current ambassador on the E8 malaria, SADC Malaria Ministers Council on Elimination is actually one of their graduates from there. The program involves the collaboration between our countries on both sides of the boundary, mobilizing funds from global funds, mobilizing funds from the private sector. Already South Africa has put up some funds to assist on the side of Mozambique so that we can push the boundary further up towards towards past Gaza in Mozambique. At the same time, we are looking at how these first 4 countries can actually eliminate, that is Namibia, South Africa, Botswana, and of course Eswatini, and the southern part of Zimbabwe. It is possible to eliminate malaria. It will change the tourism scenery. It will change the logistics and transport industry. It will actually have a huge impact, positive impact on the GDP of the whole continent, particularly the SADC area. Thank you very much for the question.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. We proceed with the 3rd supplementary that will be asked by Honorable Wilson.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, DDT has been banned in a lot of countries around the world because of the effects that it has on human beings and particularly undeveloped fetuses. There are severe side effects to DDT. It also has effects on insects and animals. And there's a lot of research that says that that mosquitoes have also now become immune to DDT and pyrethroids. And yet South Africa still uses this to get rid of malaria. In your awareness programs, Minister, are you at least advising when you are spraying DDT in all of these communities, in people's houses and around their children and livestock? Does your awareness campaign include the fact that they should be warned about the effects and what the possible symptoms are and what can be done when you are spraying their houses with DDT? Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for the question. Indeed, we do warn people about the possible challenges that are associated with DDT. But I think when we go into that issue, we need to know that all the countries that we're talking about that had eliminated malaria use DDT. All of them. And of course, there are some challenges with DDT. In the way that the DDT is being used now, it's actually taking very serious precautions to make sure that the impact is limited. For example, when the spraying, the indoor residual spraying is done, the particular canisters that are used, they always make sure that they mix it in such a way that mixing happens on the one canister and they don't spill it all over, so that some of it goes ultimately into the swamps and to the rivers and so on. So the people doing the spraying are very well taught to know that they need to avoid that. Secondly, the communities, when they're spraying, they are actually asked to put all of their possessions in the center of the hut so that the spraying happens. They have to wait for a number of hours so that the DDT would have gone into fix itself on the wall, so that even a baby that's touching on the wall does not actually get itself contaminated as such. We know that when the vector mosquito comes in, if they actually landed on the wall, they would of course be killed by that. But the way it is done, the risk is reduced for those who are the inhabitants in that particular area. We worked on this a few years back. I can recall when I was MEC, and this was giving us much better results than some of the parathyroids that was used in the Mozambique, in the neighboring countries. They had a problem that the biggest pressure from them was that the funding, the donor agencies were the ones that were telling them what they can do, what they cannot do. But we were more successful in KwaZulu-Natal that time. We actually achieved a 97% reduction in malaria transmission, mainly because of this. So I think that the information is important. It's important to always know that there would always be challenges, but that those challenges can be mitigated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. The last supplementary will be asked by Honorable Hlengwa. Mamu Hlengwa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Karazela, one would welcome your response, and one would say this response should be advocacy ahead to our people, because our people, as I had not know what DTT doing. What about those who are down there, but I'm not there? Yes. Whether since most of the malaria cases in South Africa are import, your department, is there any mechanism put in place to regulate travelers from high-risk malaria endemic countries? If not, why not? If so, what are the relevant details? I am a teacher.
Thank you. Let's stop there, Mamu Hlengwa. The Honorable Minister. The Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Siyabonga Mama Mashasha. Kodwa ke ngiyichazele ndawo khona izocaca. Okokuqala nje i-DDT yona enamandla ukubulala labo omiyane abasihlupha ngomalale veve. Ngoba iyona enamandla, zikhona ezinye izinto ezisetshenziswayo azinawo amandla afanayo. Sisebenzise yona kakhulu ke ngoba sinolwazi lokuthi lapho inengxaki khona kufanele ukuthi ugade ingayi emanzini, ingayi emlonyeni, ingathinti abantu ngoba iyangena esikhumbeni, ingalimaza izinso, ingalimaza indawo ezihlukene, ingalimaza ezinye izilwane. Siyabafundisa abantu labo bashoya balapha ya ibona esibafundisayo. Ngakhuluma ngabantu abasehlangothini lomngcele phakathi kweSwazini neNingizimu Afrika, nalabo abaphakathi komngcele neMozambique kanye neZimbabwe. Inkinga ke ekhona kulokho ukuthi kufanele sihambisane sibambisane uma ngabe sithi yofutha imizi, mabe futha ngapha kulomngcele waseNingizimu Afrika, babe befutha nakomakhelwane ukwenzela ukuthi uMosquito abakhona imomiyane bangaweli, ngoba kuwukuthi sesivule ibhande elenza ukuthi kuvikele umalala veva ngokubulala uMosquito abaseduze komngcele wethu. Nanso into esiyenzayo. Kodwa masiya kofutha siyabafundisa abantu ukuthi qoqa impahla zakho uzibeke phansi kwensika. eduze kweziko kwenzela uma kufuthwa kungabi khona into ezothela ngoba kuhanjwe endongeni kuphela. Okwesibili, uma ngabe kuwukuthi kufuthiwe ubakelwa isikhathi esithile sokuthi emva kwamahora angaka uyobusuka ngena endlini ngoba uma usheshe wangena uzothola kusemanzi sifuna ukuze kome kodwa mase komile ilapho kushaya khona kakhulu kulabo miyana. Ngakho kayikho ingozi esinayo sikaze sibe noyedwa umuntu okubikwayo ukuthi wakhotha udonga noma wathinta ngesandla wasebuya eseguliswa uDDT. Siqikelela kakhulu lokho ngoba le minye imithi ekhona ayinawo amandla afanayo bebenengxaki eMozambique ngalokho. Manje inkinga yakho behlushwa ukuthi eyabi inhlelo zokuchelela mosquito bazikhokhelwa abantu abanye bangaphandle bese kuthi ningakuthengi lokhu ningakuthengi lokhu. Lapha kufana.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Minister. Your time has expired. Thank you, Minister. Thank you. We now proceed. Question 615 has been asked by Honorable Malomane to the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. The Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you, Chair, House Chair, and thanks to Honorable Member Malomane on that very important question. Perhaps let me start by applauding the provinces Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal, Western Cape, and Free State so far, who have made it possible that we interact with them on this very important matter of the transformation of the heritage landscape. So the full audit of all the statues, symbols, and monuments of the Republic has not yet been done. The South African Heritage Resources Agency is the agency which is going to be responsible for this national audit. Already, the agency is in the process of hiring unemployed youth to do this audit of statues across the country, symbols, as we said, and monuments in all the 9 provinces. The manner of handling this, Honorable Chair, I'm sorry about that, is that we are emphasizing the issue of transformation, which has to be accelerated together with nation building. This can seem contradictory, but these are mutually reinforcing. And you can achieve nation building, social cohesion, whilst you transform society. So symbols, statues, and monuments to be considered for relocation and repositioning are those which are an anathema to the foundational values of our democracy. And it will happen, those repositioning, after consultation process. And that is very important. And all that happen at a local level. If a statue or a symbol or whatever is in a particular locality, it's people in that particular locality who must come together, discuss and agree whether that symbol is needed there or not. But what is important is that those symbols which for the proponents of colonialism and apartheid, we have decided that they should not occupy prominent spaces, but rather go to the cultural nation building parks, because we also are not in line with the fact that other people say that they must be confined to the dustbin of history. We think that as government, we are responsible for them, so we'll ensure that they are in these parks, so that those who want to come and view them will have that opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I've been informed that Honorable Zondi will take charge of the first supplementary question on behalf of Honorable Malomane in accordance with Rule 137(10)A. I now recognize Honorable Zondi.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for the response on the follow-up, Honourable Minister, how can we use the transformation of the heritage landscape as a vehicle to educate and have a constructive engagement on the value that this process has on the development of our country? Thank you, Honourable House Chair.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Well, it's mainly, thank you, Honourable Member. It's mainly on at the level of public education, mobilizing, engaging structures of civil society and everybody else to understand the importance of this transformation. See, the oppressed majority still remains in this country a cultural minority in the public spaces. And that is an untenable situation. So we have started that. As I said, we've engaged 4 provinces, 5 we still have to engage with them, including the National House of Traditional Leaders. But one of the things we're emphasizing in this process, in line with the cabinet decision we took some few years ago, is that history has to be compulsory subject in school, so that we are able to ensure that our people, especially our youth, understand who we are as a society. I mean, it's not sustainable to have our youth knowing who Churchill was, but not knowing who Kwame Nkrumah was, and the role he played in the unification of the continent and so on. So we are hopeful that the combination of factors will ensure that people see the value of social cohesion around this very process of transforming the heritage landscape.
Thank you, Minister. The second supplementary goes to Honourable Van Dijk.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, your response to question 2480 for written reply 2D on what budget allocation will be made available for the removal of statues was that affected municipalities will be required to allocate an operational budget for this. In light of the fact that 128 of 278 municipalities are in financial distress, that's almost 50%, and are failing service delivery bill services and to collect revenue according to the 2019 AG report, as well as the fact that the department's budget has been adjusted and reduced with R1 billion because of the COVID-19 pandemic, where will the money actually come from to support the removal and management of statues, symbols, and geographical names? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and thanks, Honourable Van Dijk. Just for correction, we will not remove any statue, but we will relocate. That is very important for you, Honourable Member, to note. You are talking about something which municipalities, which district municipalities are already doing. Some of this work would not be starting after this process we're embarking on of the audit. They have done it in the past and they will continue to do it. One of the provinces we're engaging this afternoon was Western Cape. And we did make a point that when it comes to cultural nation building parks, it's going to be a partnership of local, provincial, and national government, because the goal of creating a socially coherent nation is a goal of all of us at all levels. That is why we're engaging the provincial legislatures, we'll be engaging SALGA, we'll engage National House of Traditional Leaders. So it's a partnership because it's something which has to happen. All of us will find a way to ensure that it indeed happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister. The third supplementary goes to Honourable Denner.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, you just now called these so-called parks for proponents of apartheid. I take it then that the statue of, say, General Koos de la Rey, will they not be moved, as he died long before the start of apartheid in 1948? But that being said, what is the criteria applied to determine whether a statue, symbol or monument is either an apartheid or colonial figure or both? And what is the rationale behind this criteria? Thank you, Honourable House Chair.
Dankie. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member Denner. Thanks for that question. Let me say, Honourable Member, on this question, we were assisted especially by political parties, including the Freedom Front Plus, to come at a determination on the criteria to be used. Fundamentally, the foundational values of the Constitution of the Republic is going to be the main measuring rod of this process of the relocation of statues to the parks, as we said, the cultural nation building parks. So really the Constitution now, who was a proponent of apartheid, who was a proponent of injustice in this country, or a colonialist or a colonial figure is well known in this country, Honourable Member. But I'm glad, as I say, that in this journey, we are all together, including the Freedom Front Plus. Thank you very much, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Sigabezele Honourable Umamu Kaula, the last supplementary.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, historical and to these days, white people and have been oppressors in this country, and black people have been and continue to be the oppressed, the maintenance of statute of colonialism and apartheid figures in offensive to both memory and present suffering of black people. Why is there a need to engage those who defend colonialism and apartheid before removing those offensive monument? It is necessary to negotiate to
Honourable Kaula,
our pain with primarily perpetuating you.
Nkosi Mamu Kaula. The Honourable Minister, I hope you did catch Mamu Kaula.
No, I got the gist, Honourable Member.
Go ahead,
Honourable Chair.
Go ahead, Honourable Minister.
From Honourable Kaula. Look, we are a constitutional democracy. We are not a despotic state. So therefore, the Constitution enjoins us to have continuous conversation amongst ourselves. Therefore, it would be important that every South African feel part and parcel of a process of building this very nascent democracy of ours. And we will continue to do that because the alternative to that would be dictatorship. And we're far from that and will never be at that level of dictatorship. So consultation, when we said in the Freedom Charter that the people shall govern, we meant that there would be consultation, decisions made by society will involve all, including those you don't agree with ideologically or politically. Thank you very much, Honourable Member.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. We proceed to the next question. Question 660 has been asked by Honourable Sheikh Imam to the Minister of Social Development. The Honourable Minister. The Honourable Minister of Social Development.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, thank you very much, Chairperson. I was still muted, and thank you very much to the Honorable Sheikh Imam. This sector has been and will continue to absorb unemployed social worker graduates. The department has engaged on other departments to urge them to recruit social work graduates in line with the decision of Cabinet of 2018. We will be working on a plan to extend support to government departments in this regard. And the call, Honorable Chair and Honorable Members, obviously we continue to make it not only to government departments but also to the private sector to help us with the absorption of social workers. It should, however, be noted also that during this period, National Treasury has imposed a ceiling on the cost of employees beyond which the sector and the departments may not spend, and in line with the current organizational structure. This, therefore, has a direct impact on provinces who employ majority of social workers in our sector. Although I must indicate, Chairperson, that some provinces have really been creative in terms of absorbing the social workers, and I can clearly speak to particularly the Free State, which has used other methods and used other mechanisms legally and otherwise to make sure that these social workers are absorbed. The funded vacant posts of social workers will be advertised at entry salary level as stipulated in the Public Service Regulatory Framework, and the recruitment process will be followed accordingly in this regard. It is also important to highlight that as social ills increase in our country, which we have seen particularly during this period of COVID-19, so does the need to employ social workers so that they can be able to respond particularly to increase in the number of social workers to provide trauma counseling support. In this regard, during the lockdown, we employed just over 1,800 social workers in all provinces, albeit in contract, and personally, I really don't like this whole thing of contract because I've seen that contracts are very abusive sometimes. People are employed for a very long time, not only just on the issues of social workers, they're employed for too long and then they lose on the benefits of full employment. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. The first supplementary to Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, House Chair and Minister. Thank you very much for your report there. Minister, we've discussed this matter before. There's thousands of them that remain unemployed, even though it cost us a lot of money to train them. But very importantly, given the challenges we're facing on the ground, there is now a great need to employ more and more of them. A good example, I've just come from the opening of an organization, Philisa Abafazi Betu. Now, we have said that men are the problem. There's an organization, first in the country, I think, that are now dealing with boys and men who are screaming for help to create a better society of men in South Africa if we believe men are the problem. How do you envisage with financial constraints in your department to be able to accommodate as many of these social workers and put them on the ground so we can deal with the root causes of gender-based violence and other things that we are experiencing? You know, Minister, no, not the social department nationally, not Western Cape, nobody has provided this organization with anything. All came from private donors. And they're doing a fantastic job. You need to go and look at that, what they set up there today. They need the support. They need social workers. They need the resources. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for that question, Honourable Imam. May I, as usual, me and you call me every time we are on the ground, and I appreciate that you call me because we are responding to the needs of the people that you're coming across. And therefore, I would request that me and you continue talking about the Philisa Abafazi organization, and let's see what is it that we can do. And I'm thankful also of the fact that the private sector donors have supported them, but obviously and clearly they do need the support of government. Let me also indicate that the amount of money that we spend on NPOs, I keep repeating it, is next year it's going to be 8-point-something billion rands. This year we're spending 7.6. And therefore those organizations, as the ones that we are calling Philisa Abafazi, if they are those organizations that are making the greater impact on our people, then it's important for us to be able to support them. And also thank you very much for highlighting the issue of gender-based violence, because as you are aware, we just launched the 16 days of activism, and as we are speaking right now, the President is addressing and is engaging in a dialogue with NPOs and NGOs to deal with this scourge that is a shame to all of us and a shame to the nation in general. Of course, as I indicated, one of the biggest problems is the purse. I wish the purse could have much more than what it has right now. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And therefore, as a department, we are looking at creative ways of absorbing the social workers. And the call has always been for us to get the provinces also to be creative in absorbing them. Because if we could make sure that we have social workers deployed in most districts, and particularly the districts that are hotspots, not only for gender-based violence, but all other social ills that face our nation. We will continue to support in the best way that we can. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The second supplementary goes to Honourable Abrahams.
Thank you, House Chair. Minister, you touched on the Cabinet resolution from 2018, 2 years ago, in that all government departments must employ social work graduates. And like you said, Minister, we don't talk about short-term contract, we talk about permanent employment. When the department briefed the committee of the approximate 9,000 unemployed yet qualified social workers, it was said that this Cabinet resolution is not being implemented. The department undertook to write to the leader of government business to intervene. And my question is simple, Minister. Have you written to the Deputy President since the committee meeting on the 21st of October? And what has been the Deputy President's response to this urgent matter? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for that question. I cannot offhand remember whether that letter went or not. I will go and check that because it's important, and I don't want to be giving an answer that I'm not 100% sure of. But however, the commitment by the department, not only to be talking or writing to the Deputy President, all members of Cabinet are fully aware of the Cabinet decision, and all members of Cabinet are committed to assisting us in solving this problem. But unfortunately for us, I must say, the process is very slow. And the fact that, again, everyone is complaining about the budget and the fact that Treasury has also cut the budget. But I will commit to go check whether that letter was written or not. We write a lot of letters, and so my sincere apology that I cannot respond adequately to the issue as to whether the letter was written or not. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, the time allocated for question has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed in Hansard. That concludes the business of the day. The House is adjourned.
Thank you.